You know, you hear it constantly these days, right? The cyber threats, they just keep coming.
They really do. It feels relentless sometimes.
But the source material we're diving into today, it opens with this point that really shifted my perspective a bit.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
That employees are the last line of defense. It's not just about the tech anymore.
That's absolutely the core insight the document drives home right from the start. I mean, yes, firewall, software, all that stuff is essential, obviously.
Of course.
But attackers are increasingly targeting, well, us, people. They know a single click, maybe on the wrong link, can bypass layers and layers of technical security. So this blueprint we're looking at, it recognizes that people aren't just a potential vulnerability. They can actually be the strongest defense if, they're equipped properly.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's unpack this blueprint then. Today we're doing a deep dive specifically into cybersecurity awareness training for employees based on this pretty comprehensive document we found.
Yeah, and our mission here really is to pull out the vital nuggets.
Yeah.
Why is this kind of training so crucial right now? What does it actually look like when it's done effectively?
Right.
And maybe most importantly, how does it move beyond just like checking a box for compliance?
Yeah, the tick box exercise.
Exactly. How does it build a genuine culture of security within an organization?
The source definitely lays out a clear, systematic approach. It seems to cover everything from initially assessing the human risk,
Right, the starting point.
though different training methods, and interestingly, these realistic attack simulations right up to reporting and sort of reinforcing the right behaviors.
And it highlights some pretty specific modern techniques. There's a real emphasis on realism and personalization.
It feels less about abstract concepts, more about creating like practical resilience.
Exactly. Resilience against the kinds of attacks employees actually face, day in, day out.
So this blueprint from the source material, it's not just a one-off training session, is it? It describes more of a continuous process.
Oh, absolutely. It presents it as a cycle, which I think is key.
Yeah.
It kicks off with benchmarking.
Benchmarking, okay.
Yeah, the document really stresses that you have to know where you stand before you start training anyone.
Makes sense.
So this is typically done through some kind of simulated attack, like a fake phishing email sent out internally.
Ah, okay. To see who clicks?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
To calculate the organization's current phish-prone percentage, as they call it, it gives you that baseline risk level.
Got it. Figure out the starting point, the weak spots. Then I assume based on those results comes the training part.
Right, exactly. And the document details how this phase involves personalized training content. It mentions things like interactive e-learning modules.
Interactive, okay.
Yeah, and customizable for different roles or departments, delivered in formats that are actually designed for retention, not just, clicking through slides.
And after some training, you immediately cycle back to simulation. Doesn't that feel a bit like testing people right after class? A bit harsh.
Well, that's where it gets really interesting, and it's a core part of this blueprint's philosophy. The source argues pretty strongly that training alone just isn't enough. You have to test retention and readiness, but under realistic conditions. So the simulation phase uses scenarios designed to mimic actual threats employees might encounter.
Like what specifically?
Things like really targeted spear phishing, SMS-based attack smishing.
Oh, yeah, those are sneaky.
Totally. Or file attacks with malicious documents hidden inside, website cloners that look exactly like the real thing, and even ransomware simulations.
Wow, okay.
Yep.
So pretty intense.
Yeah, the goal, as the source puts it, is to test employees just like hackers would. Sometimes they even mention using real company data, carefully of course, to make the simulation feel disturbingly authentic.
So they're really putting employees in the hot seat, so to speak, with realistic attacks to see if the training actually stuck.
Exactly. And to identify where the real vulnerabilities are, not just in tech, but in behavior and maybe even existing defenses.
Okay. It's about moving from just knowing something theoretically
to actually demonstrating secure behavior when it counts. That's precisely. And the process doesn't stop there. The final stage in this cycle they describe is report and retrain.
Okay, report and retrain. What kind of reporting are we talking about here? Is it just pass-fail?
No, it sounds much more detailed. The source describes pretty robust reporting features. They call it enterprise strength stats, covering both the training completion and, critically, the results from those simulations.
Ah, so connecting the dots.
Yes. This includes things like cybersecurity risk scoring, showing perhaps which departments or individuals are most vulnerable,
Ooh, interesting.
and also compliance reporting, naturally. This data is vital because it fuels the next loop of the cycle. It informs who needs retraining, maybe on specific topics, and what needs reinforcement across the whole organization.
So it sounds like the blueprint is designed to be constantly adapting based on actual real-world performance data from these simulations.
That's the idea, a continuous improvement loop.
The source makes a point, too, that this kind of testing goes wider and deeper than company questionnaires. What's the significance of that distinction, do you think?
Well, I think this is a really core insight from the document. Questionnaires, they measure theoretical knowledge.
Right, or what people say they would do.
Exactly, or self-reported behavior.
Yeah.
But simulated attacks measure actual behavior under pressure. Hackers don't send questionnaires asking if you know about phishing.
Oh, no, they don't.
They send convincing fakes. So by simulating those real attacks, the source argues you get a far more accurate picture of the true human risk. And then you can actually prompt the desired cyber behavior, as they phrase it, through that repeated exposure and feedback. It's like building a behavioral firewall.
A behavioral firewall. I like that. And the document highlights the sheer variety of training programs and formats available within this model. It mentions over 20 curated programs.
Yes, which makes sense, right? Human risk isn't monolithic. There are modules targeting specific threats we all face, like phishing, ransomware, passwords, data leaks, general email, and internet security. Common pitfalls.
The usual suspect.
The usual suspects. But crucially, it also tailors training for specific contexts.
Yeah.
Things for executives, for new employees, for people working from home, physical security aspects, and even role-specific or industry-specific content. They mention GDPR compliance, higher education, finance, healthcare, hospitality, even online shopping safety.
That level of specificity really does make a lot of sense for relevance. An executive probably worries about different scams than, say, a healthcare worker dealing with patient data.
Exactly. The exec might need training on, like, whaling attacks, while the healthcare worker needs to focus intensely on IPA-related data privacy scenarios. Different risks, different focus.
And how is this training actually delivered? To make it stick, I mean, not just another boring corporate training.
Yeah, they address that. The source advocates for bite-sized chunks delivered over weeks rather than one massive, overwhelming session.
Okay, micro-learning style.
Sort of, yeah. Helps with retention. It's apparently available in over 18 languages, works across all devices, phone, tablet, desktop.
Good flexibility.
And they make this specific note that caught my eye. No cartoons.
I noticed that too. What's the thinking there?
I think the idea is the material is designed to be serious and professional, aimed squarely at an adult workforce. Not condescending,
Right, treat employees like professionals. And it seems designed to integrate pretty seamlessly into how companies already operate. It mentions integrating with learning management systems, Active Directory, Google Workspace, single sign-on.
Yeah, that's critical for practical deployment, especially in a large organization. As the source points out, if it's a huge pain to implement alongside existing IT systems,
It just won't happen.
it won't get used effectively, exactly. They even talk about integrating with platforms like Slack or Teams, using bots to deliver micro-training or little nudges.
Okay, interesting. Which leads nicely into the practical benefits this whole blueprint aims to deliver. It's not just about making people aware.
Right. Beyond just reducing that human risk element, the source really highlights how this structured approach directly helps companies meet compliance requirements.
The compliance angle, like SOC2, ISO 2701.
Exactly those. Plus, various data privacy laws like GDPR or CCPA. By documenting the training and, importantly, the simulation results, companies have auditable proof of their efforts to secure that human layer.
Okay, that's a big plus for many organizations.
Definitely. And the platform apparently provides a central dashboard, they call it Insights, in the source to easily monitor progress, identify vulnerable areas, or maybe specific individuals who need more help.
The risk scoring again?
Yeah, and generate reports easily. Employees can even get certificates for completing training, which can be a motivator too.
A little positive reinforcement, and I saw the source material included some examples of customer testimonials. Did anything stand out there?
Yeah, the feedback seemed to often mention the tailored workshops, the process of identifying specific needs before jumping into training.
So that initial assessment piece again.
Right, and the interactive nature of the sessions, the use of real-world examples that made the learning feel relevant and engaging. It seems to reinforce that this practical simulation-based approach resonates with organizations looking for measurable impact, not just checking a box.
So when you look at this whole comprehensive blueprint, the focus is clearly and pretty effectively placed on the individual employee, turning them into that strong last line of defense we talked about at the start.
Hmm.
And it really drives home that this isn't just some abstract corporate policy. It's about protecting the actual people in an organization from some pretty sophisticated attacks, maybe even protecting you listening now or someone you know. What stands out to you as the most impactful aspect of this structured approach to human risk?
What strikes me most is the commitment to continuous assessment, that benchmarking and simulation piece, and then using that data to drive personalized retraining.
The feedback loop.
Exactly. It acknowledges that security awareness isn't like a static state you achieve once. It's a skill. It needs practice and refinement because the threats themselves are constantly evolving. It's really a proactive cycle, not just a passive checklist you work through once a year.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The source talks about making the training relatable, retainable, and fun. Well, I mean, not fun, but engaging and delivering those digital nudges to reinforce learning over time. So given how quickly the threats do change, what do you think is the biggest challenge in keeping employees truly aware, truly engaged, and actually resilient over the long haul? Years after that initial training cycle might have finished.